Hi, this is Pete Holiday.
This is country artist Olivia Rose.
This is Cupid's Heart.
Hey, this is Shobsy.
My name's Matt Blaze.
And you are listening to Two Irish
Don't make a right
on CJSR 88.5 FM.
in Edmonton and around the world on CJSR.com.
Don't touch that dial.
I'm joined by the Saskatoon native transplanted to the Niagara region of Ontario, Canada, the one, the only blues legend, Suzie Vinnick. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm keeping the best side out on this Saturday morning. It's cold where I am. What's it like in your neck of the woods?
I'm in Niagara and it's warm. My backyard is green. It's so weird because like not even 5 hours away in Ottawa and that they have snow and stuff. It's supposed to be a high of 8 or 9 today. So, but I'm from Saskatoon originally, as you know. So
yeah,
I get the prairies are a little bit of a different animal.
How did you get involved in music? What was, and particularly blues? What was the calling for you?
I started playing guitar at the age of 9, and I, as a teen, in my early teens, I liked like classic rock and stuff like that. And I had a couple of pals that I used to get together and jam with. So the first place we went was a little pub called the Rose and Crown. And so we'd go there on Saturdays and do a handful of songs. And then the place burnt down, financial combustion, some say. And so the only other place in town that it was legal for us to go in because we were underage was Bud's on Broadway, which was a new, at the time, this is mid 80s blues bar. And they would get blues musicians from across Canada and the States in for 6 nights a week. And every Saturday from 3 to 7, they would host a jam session. So my friends Keith and Tim and I would go and play our 3 songs. And it was kind of an introduction officially to like blues, though I'm sure like I listened to Led Zeppelin before going to Bud. So I was getting taste of it through, you know, the radio station and through Zeppelin and and other bands that I listened to. So that was how I kind of started getting into it. It wasn't, no, I didn't. My parents loved all sorts of music, as did my older brother. Generally, he was kind of maybe a little more contemporary, but blues that was a little rockier was stuff I tend to gravitate towards a bit more. And but then we get artists who did and I played in jazz band in high school, so we'd get artists in, like Ellen McElwain came from Calgary and she'd do her 6 nights. And there were only a handful of female artists that came through 2 Buds on Broadway. And so I had this, it was very cool to see like Sue Foley, Ellen McElwain, killer guitar players and performers and leading their own bands. And so it was really inspiring. So I spent a lot of Saturday afternoons either at the jam session, eventually leading the jam session with my friend Curtis Scarrow, who is a killer guitar player from Saskatoon, and just coordinating the jam. And and I was playing bass. I'd picked up bass early in high school, so I think I put my 10,000 hours in. Well, not that good, but I put in a lot of hours because there was a lot of times I was the only bass player at the jam. So it was good. So I was learning and making a little bit of money and playing music, which were 3 things that made me super happy. And I think that Bud's was part of a circuit that came through like Edmonton, which I don't know. I don't remember the name of the bar at the time. I think it's the Commercial now, right?
Yeah, you're right. The Commercial, Blues on White.
Blues on White, yeah.
Yeah.
So there used to be a whole circuit that could do it. And I never did the circuit. I was never at a point, not till I moved to Ontario in the early 90s.
The guitar and the bass, for that matter, it's not the only instrument that you got strong command on. And in particular, I'm talking about your voice. I was listening to Sometimes I Think I Can Fly. To me, not only is it powerful and it's, you know, it suits the music and genre very well. I listened to the acoustic version of that song, and shades of She Moves Through the Fair wafted through my inner. There's some sort of Celtic link there. I don't know what it was, but beautiful performance. Do you like doing the stripped down, or prefer with the band, or is it a mix? Or is
it's a mix, actually. It depends who the band is and stuff. But I really like, for shows, it's practical to do the solo thing because it's just a little more economically feasible, and to do a little tour and that. And I enjoy the intimacy of performing with an audience with just a guitar and voice. And I've been these last few years, I've been doing a few songs on electric bass as well and singing.
Wow.
So it's just bass and voice. My last album, Shake the Love Around, has a track actually, and it was Danger Zone that I learned from Ellen McElwain and actually played it with her.
Wow.
When I played with the Women's Blues Review, we did that song, and so I ended up doing a cover of Ellen's cover. And it's funny because the guy that co-produced the album with me and the drummer were like, "Oh, you can't do that. We got to play. You got to have something on it with you." And it was, no, it's okay. And it's funny because it's a song that it sort of sticks out, but in a good way. Like folks tend to remember that. Oh, I like it when you played your green bass and a little different. So
You do the Christmas cover version of Santa Baby. And it's a perfect example of the stripped back versions of songs and performances are a little bit more engaging sometimes, aren't they? I find
it's like it's intimate, right? It's more like we're sitting in your living room and I'm just singing and playing guitar, right? Just that intimacy when you sit with like 5 or 6 people in a room, or 8 or 9, if just a bunch of friends pass around a guitar. I don't know, there's just something about it that I like. But it's also really cool. Like I did a show last summer with Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. I was one of their special guests. Tara Lightfoot had been doing the whole tour, but something came up and she couldn't make this one particular show. So there we were in front of 28,000 people, and it's full on band rock and roll. But so the intimacy is a little different there. But it's amazing though to see an artist that can command a crowd of 28,000 people with just voice and guitar. And I've seen that a few times, and I just think it's amazing. One of my favorite guitar players, especially in my teens and in the introduction to the blues, was Stevie Ray Vaughan. And through a musician, I think he was Calgary based, originally from Ottawa. It was Back Alley John. And Tony de Teodoro, who's from Ottawa, was living in Saskatoon. And John had come to Saskatoon to do a show, hired Tony, and he hired me to play bass. And I got to meet Tony, and we got along well and ended up doing a little trio for a few months in Saskatoon. And then eventually I moved to Ottawa. He moved back to Ottawa, and I moved to Ottawa to play music with him. Just friendship and love of music. And his guitar playing was Stevie Ray Vaughan-ish, but he's got his own sense of humor that he injects into it in his own style. So, so playing with somebody like Tony, would have impacted, my ears, my brain. And then I worked with Rick Fiennes as well. And, Rick's got a different spectrum too, like where he can be very intimate, gentle, finger picking, and then can rock it up with a slide. So both those guys are musicians I've worked with over more than 20 years, 25 years, and have impacted my ears. So I think listening to them, listening to all the other music that I've listened to, favorite guitar players like David Gilmour, who with Pink Floyd, he's a rock guitar player, but I think heavily blues influenced. He's not like Steve Vai, where it's how many speedy notes kind of thing you can fit in there. It's more picking a note and
letting it breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
in terms of female artists that you would look up to, Rosetta Tharpe, would she have crossed your radar? Any of those?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. She's pretty cool, and she was pretty gregarious. Really awesome watching her in videos and the moves she does, and signature moves, kind of signature licks, and vocally too, this huge voice as well. So, and I liked her songs, and there was this positivity that she exudes. So there's a whole bunch of factors that I can't say I'm familiar with a ton of her repertoire, but certainly videos. And I will actually use her videos when I'm working with my students, either on guitar or a lot vocally too, because I've gotten students when I've done vocal workshops to do like Up Above My Head. And so she's definitely in there. Bonnie Raitt. I was introduced to Bonnie in my early 20s, didn't dive into her probably till I would say 23, 24, when I first heard Angel from Montgomery and kind of went, whoa. Then I think not long or around that time, she came out with the 2 albums that garnered her finally the notoriety that she deserved, and she got her Grammy. Yeah, so like Bonnie's in there, Big Mama Thornton's in there. There's tons.
It's a melting pot, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
Folks, if you're listening to Two Hours Don't Make It Right, and I am talking to Suzie Vinnick, who you can see if you're in the Edmonton area, January 19th. Tickets are still available. And I'm so looking forward to getting to see you perform live.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited to be back at the series. Last time I played there actually was with Tony D
Right.
and Lisa Jacobs and Kevin Belsner. So I did a four-piece band, and Tim Williams and Kevin did a duo thing. So we did a double bill of blues, a blues night. This time they've kidnapped me solo. I
Mm.
mean, if Tony's in Edmonton, I might, you know.
Tony, if you're listening. Yeah.
Well, his gal is in the area, so
Okay.
if it so happens, but I'll be solo, and I do a lot solo, and it's
Yeah.
different, but it's good.
I've seen Irish Maiden there, and a few other artists. The venue is beautiful. The New Moon Folk Club is and it's perfect for like whether it is a band or it's a solo. The audience is there to appreciate the music, so that's going to be something to look forward to coming out of Christmas. Tell me about this. Any plans in the new year for releasing of records, or what's on the agenda?
I'm just getting some work together. I released a new album just over a year ago, and haven't been writing that. I did a big tour earlier this year with Lloyd Spiegel.
Mm.
Initially with Lloyd Spiegel, we did 12 shows. Lloyd's an Australian guitar player, Charlie Acord and Lloyd and I, and we did a bunch of shows actually around Edmonton, not in Edmonton, but the ASV, Acord Spiegel Vinnick, and that was like 5 months of the year, and then odds and ends of work dotting the summer and the fall. So I've just been trying to get my bearings back. It's interesting, just the whole thing with the pandemic and shutting stuff down and trying to get back on the feet, and how do we do this again? And it's great to see like venues, people are coming out to shows again, and things are opening up, and I won't say it's like before, before the great pause, but
There's a song in that. I don't know if somebody's coined the great pause, but that needs to be used somehow. You seem to negotiated it very well. You're a busy bunny, like I said. You've been doing gigs left, right, and center. Over that time, there's obviously ups and downs for every creative in that period. How did you cope with that? How did you deal with it?
I live in the country in an old church. That's where I am right now.
Oh.
That window behind me, there is 9 feet tall and 3 feet wide, and there's 8 of them in here. And then there's a Sunday school on the back that is turned into a house. It's been out here for 11 years, but so I got to spend time in the country, so I navigate the city and the whole not being able to go out or anything, and so I'm grateful for that. I could walk up the road. There's a 2 cemeteries side by each, so I'd go for a lot of walks and just and I didn't worry about masking because most of the people in the cemetery were no longer with us. So that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
And I didn't write. I won't say, some people were quite prolific and came up with albums and stuff. I did put together an album that got finished in mid 22, but it got its start in late 2021. So it's some older tunes, some newer tunes, and it's kind of an album of comfort. It's a lot of songs that wanted to kind of replicate, not exactly, but an album that I had done in the early 2000s. And it's my latest album called Fall Back Home. And it's just that I did that original album, 33 Stars, at a time when I lost a lot of people in my life, and I was kind of feeling, a different situation. But we'd lost our work opportunities. The world's a different place with trying to figure out how to navigate through this great pause that changes in the world. So there was a feeling of loss. So I wanted to I felt like I need to do this again somehow. So came put together material anyways that had a bit of a hopeful swing to it. And I always like to throw a little sass in there.
I've always been attracted to asking this question as being a songwriter myself. What is it that moves I was going to say your feet, but in this instance, your pen in your hands? Do you need a context? Do you need a story? Do you need to feel something? Or is it again something that's, I can only describe it as something in the ether that kind of gets you an idea and it's a flash. But for you, the creative process in writing a song, how does that go?
In Gmail, I have a little file called Songwriting Snippets that if I see a title, like a book title, if I read an article, read a story about someone, if there's a phrase, I will put it in the subject, and then I will give it the context with like a website or cut and paste the article that it came from, and then set into the body of an email, send it to myself, put it in that file, and then when it's time to sit down and write, or if I have a collaboration I'm doing, I'm just finished a song last night with a really gifted writer from Ottawa named Mia Kelly, and Mia and I are doing a show together with two other artists who have been paired up, and the show is called Femvox, and it's the fifth year, and so female artists are paired together to write a song. So Mia and I just finished a song the other night, and it was the start for the song came from one of those emails, right? It's steer the boat. And it's just the essence of it is something that was happening, and I didn't like how I was responding to it, and I was just kind of almost a journal. That one was a journal about how I was responding to something, and I thought that's not really. We're human, and that didn't feel very nice, and I thought just got to get myself back on track, got to steer the boat back. So me and I investigated that metaphor and came up with a song about it. That's part of the process there, but it's like you say that sometimes the muse will come along, and you, when the muse gifts you, you kind of have to grab onto it and jot it down, or they're going to take it to the next songwriter up the road, right?
That's, again, I've never actually articulated that, but that's the fear within, that if I don't, it gets given to somebody else. That's a great way of putting it. Because there's a race against time almost. And I don't know but if you've ever done this, but I've often, I sometimes don't commit my words to paper until I have an idea, and I'll sing it over and over again. I leave it for a while. If I remember it, it's worth keeping. If I don't, it's in the bin. Or it's gone.
I get it. Yeah, that's true. And I tend to be more of a music person than a word person. So I do a lot of collaborative writing, and I certainly feel what I want maybe the song to say in my gut, but it's not always as easy for me to pull the words out as eloquently as I might like. What I do find is if I come up with more words and I don't have an instrument in my hand, like the music will often write itself once I've got enough words there, and they'll come together.
This is two Irish don't make it right. You've got, would I be right? Is that beautiful red hair? Is that in any way attributed to any DNA in Ireland? Have you got any roots? No.
Right.
Okay. Okay. That's okay.
No, it's just a hairdresser that said that would be a good color on you. I tend to be a little more brown.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, don't ever change.
But I have to say, I spent time in Ireland. In 2005, I went with my friend Neva, who lives up the road in St. Catharines, and we stayed in a caravan in near the Inch Strand, and wandered around Dingle and did little pub shows, singing more like North American music, for folks, because I didn't have any. Neva had more Celtic music background, but I didn't. But I learned a few songs just in case. But that's the closest I come, Alan. I'm sorry. There's
that's okay. At least you were there. In terms of Irish songs, what songs would you have sang back over there?
Oh.
The Rocky Road to Dublin, Dirty Old Town. No.
No, the Dirty Old Town would have been good, would it? Yeah, it would have been written already. Gosh, I think it was like the standards. I can't even think. I think I did Danny Boy.
Yeah.
Said no, never.
No, nay, never. We need to do that when you come over. We're going to have a session. Suzie, thank you so much for your time.
Alan, this has been so much fun. Thank you. Get your e-harp ready.